Hey guys, it's Dom from mobiledom.co.uk, and today I've got a comparison of the Zopo ZP980 and my Google Nexus 4. Let's get to it. Alright guys, so obviously the lovely guys over at Zopo had sent me one of these over to review, and I thought, well, why don't I compare their highest end flagship to Android's highest end flagship? And I know this isn't a completely fair test. The MediaTek chipset in the ZP980 is nowhere near as powerful as the one in the Nexus 4, but still, we can see how everything else stacks up. First off, if we go to the screens, the Zopo ZP980 has a 5-inch 1080p screen, which is 1920 down by 1080 across, and it is essentially an IPS LCD screen, and I must say, it is gorgeous. It is one of the best screens I have ever seen. Apart from the colour temperature being a bit warm for my tastes, it's a personal thing, I can't really find anything wrong with it. I mean, to me personally, the difference between 720p and 1080p is negligible unless you've got them next to each other. So, I can see the difference because I've got them both next to each other here, but if I'm only using my Nexus 4, I forget the difference. But yes, the 1080p screen on the ZP980 absolutely smashes the WXGA screen on the Nexus 4. The Nexus 4 has a 4.7 inch diagonal, 1280 by 768 WXGA, True HD, IPS Plus. Wow, there's a lot of buzzwords there. Both are capacitive, obviously. Both have 5-point multi-touch. I must say, the one thing I really missed on the ZP980 from coming from the Nexus 4 was the curved glass coming from where it slopes off to the edges. So if you're using something, I use Action Launcher. So if you slide in and your thumb rolls over the edge, like it just rolls and does it. It's very different than when it's a stark flat piece. It just feels different. But display-wise, the Zopo ZP980 wins hands down. CPU. I'm just going to pop into CPU Z for Android here. And I'm trying to, so if I actually put them both in frame, that'd help. So as we see, the ZP980 has 4 ARM Cortex A7 CPUs at 1.51 GHz. They range from 500 MHz to 1.5 GHz. We have live status updates of each core, so if I just started to do things here, you'd see this starts to change, and then there. The CPU load comes as a percentage. Your GPU vendor, which in my case is Imagination Technologies on the MediaTek chip, and the GPU render is the PowerVR SGX 544 MP4. How about I get that straight? There we go. On the Nexus 4, on the other hand, we have the Qualcomm Snapdragon S4 Pro at 1.51 GHz. The model number is the APQ8064. The CPU architecture is Crate. There's 4 cores, 28 nanometers. I wouldn't get that information on here, but I think the ARM Cortex A7s are either 32 nanometers or 28. The cores, which run from 300 megahertz to basically 400 megahertz. 400 megahertz to 1.51 gigahertz. Live status of each core. So me touching the screen activated 3 of the 4 cores. Next, the CPU load currently at 14-15%. GPU vendor is Qualcomm, and the GPU renderer is the Adreno 320. Now, the architectural differences between these two is phenomenal. Without going too much into it, Cortex A7 was basically designed to be a more power efficient version of the Cortex A9. So whilst keeping CPU grunt about the same, they reduced power by, I think it was nearly 20% between the Cortex A7 and the Cortex A9. Qualcomm's Snapdragon S4 Pro, on the other hand, with the Crate architecture, Crate was basically designed to be as fast as possible. It was supposed to, the original Crate, which is Crate 200, which is in this, and the dual-core Snapdragon S4s, so the ones in the American Galaxy S3 and HTC One X. Those original Crates and the Crate 300 and Snapdragon 600, those were designed to be a kind of a midway between Cortex A9 and Cortex A15. Cortex A15 wasn't quite ready yet, and Qualcomm make their own stuff anyway, or for the majority of it. So whereas Cortex A7 was designed to be power efficient, the crate architecture was basically designed to be like, let's get it all done as fast as possible because we've got the most power. So this is Jeremy Clarkson and this is James May. There you go, put it that way. Only people who watch Top Gear will get that. But if we quickly run through the app, you can see it's quite similar. I mean, apart from me like moving the devices around on the desk by accident, neither is particularly slow. So if we I can't speak. If we go for pure grunt, the Nexus 4 wins in GPU and CPU, but this is actually no slouch. The MediaTek chip is great. I think 1080p is pushing it a bit for the Cortex A7, so I think on a 720p screen like the Oppo R819, it should probably run a lot better. Alright, next if we go to batteries, if we just turn them both over. Basically, the Nexus 4 has a 2100 mAh non-removable lithium polymer battery. The Zopo ZP980, on the other hand, has a 2000 mAh removable lithium-ion battery. So it's neither has good battery life. Basically, the performance, the battery gains you get from the Cortex A7s are counteracted by having a 1080p LCD screen, and having the lower resolution screen on this is compounded by having the higher power SoC. It swings and roundabouts really. You save some here, you take it away there, and it usually comes out even. I could make it through a full day with both of these if I really tried, but sometimes on both of them at the end of my lunch break at about 1 o'clock I was nearing a charger, so take that as you will. Right, next if we go into settings and go all the way to the bottom, if I actually scroll, not tap, there we go. Take away the fact I'm running SoundMod here. This is Android 4.3, and if I bring them closer, the Zopo ZP980 is running Android 4.2.1, and the Nexus 4 is, of course, running Android 4.3. Android 4.3 brings in a couple of goodies like OpenGL ES 3.0 and Bluetooth Low Energy support. Speaking of Bluetooth Low Energy, both of these devices have support for Bluetooth 4.0, but again, only the Nexus 4 has support for Bluetooth Low Energy because it is the only one with 4.3. If we go into the cameras, neither of these have really great cameras. Both can be absolutely appallingly terrible, but that's a different story altogether. The Nexus 4 has an 8 megapixel autofocus camera with an LED flash. It can record 1080p video at 30 frames a second, and it has a front-facing 1.3 megapixel shooter. The Zopo ZP980 has a 13 megapixel rear-facing camera with autofocus and an LED flash. It can also shoot 1080p video at 30 frames a second, but its front camera is 5 megapixels. Neither of the front-facing cameras has autofocus, and if the Nexus 4 does, and I'm missing it, it's absolutely terrible. So, again. But if I quickly open up the cameras in both of these, and I'm going to quickly take a photo of the dragons at the back of my desk. There we go, and take one on the Nexus. If I can find the camera icon on my Zopo. There we go. So if we, come on Zopo, rotate. If we just zoom in on the skull dragon, you can just see there's more detail in the Zopo one, just because it's kind of got more megapixels to go with, but both have muted colors, and if I didn't have to use either of them, I really wouldn't. The Nexus 4 just has a particularly bad shooter, but the Zopo ZP980 can also have some severe shutter lag, which makes taking photos basically unusable. Front-facing cameras, I'll tell you what, how about this? We actually just take a live photo of me now. So if we go into the camera, if I can actually hold both phones, this would be a good one. 3, 2, 1. As you can see, the Zopo ZP980 has kind of, I don't know why there we go. The Zopo ZP980 without a doubt has the better front-facing camera. There's just so much more detail in it. Neither are autofocus, and both, wow, those are terrible. I have a weird face. Neither have particularly great front-facing cameras because they're front-facing cameras, but the Zopo ZP980 wins hands down in this regard. Next, storage. The Nexus 4 has never been known for its great storage. It has 8 and 16GB variants, and that is it. There is no micro SD slot, so pick the one you want. I went with the 8GB because I keep everything on the cloud because I have unlimited data, but for some people that just isn't feasible. So for them, I'd recommend getting the 16GB one. The Zopo ZP980, on the other hand, comes in 16 and 32GB variants, and it has an SD card slot for up to another 64GB of memory. So again, the ZP980 wins hands down there. Colours, both come in black and white, but if you can somehow find the Nexus 4 in white, I salute you, because it's limited edition and they've sold out. So well done for that. Alright, if we just go on to benchmarks, I'm not actually going to run them. I ran them earlier, and I'm just going to show you the screenshots because, well, that'd be horrible to bore you. If we go to Antutu got 15,119 on the Zopo ZP980, and it got 20,566 on my Nexus 4. If we go into Quadrant, the ZP980 got 4,440, and the Nexus 4 got 6,336. Geekbench, I've got to find the Geekbench one, sorry about this, guys. Geekbench, the Zopo ZP980 got 392 on single core, whereas the Nexus 4 got 500 on single core. The ZP980 got 1,263 on multi-core, and the Nexus 4 got 1,601. Go back. Last is 3D Mark, which, as you can see, the Nexus 4, the Ice Storm Extreme, the Ice Storm score got maxed out. The Ice Storm Extreme got 7,019, and the Ice Storm Unlimited was 10,718. And I would love to show you the 3D Mark scores for the ZP980, except it crashed. Whenever I tried to run 3D Mark, just before it would give you the results, it would just crash, and then therefore it's unusable. Alright, what we're going to do now is we're actually going to do a boot up test. So I'm just going to power my Nexus 4 down and power the ZP980 down. And we're going to see which one basically turns on fastest. Now, beware for some of you who are a bit shocked easy, there is a loud boot up sound on the ZP980, which I should probably have told you. But alright, now they're both fully off. Going to hit the power buttons at the same time, so 3, 2, 1. Well, actually, by quite a fair margin, actually. There you go. It's about 5 to 10 seconds the Nexus 4 has over it. We're going to do a couple of app launch times. How about I just turn you down? If I put you both on silent. I don't know why I didn't do that before. Alright guys, I've got how about I put them actually in frame as well? I've got a list over to the side that I'm just going to reference. So first off, we have Chrome. conclusion between putting these two head to head, they're very comparable. The Nexus 4 obviously has a speed advantage, but the ZP980 has the better screen. It's more expandable with the storage. It has dual SIM slots, which is actually a really cool feature. If you haven't tried it on a newer device, it's actually just really cool. It's got the better camera, even though they're both pretty much mediocre. It's got a good enough CPU, but the Nexus 4 is a Nexus. It's gonna have updates for a lot longer. It's officially supported by Google. We don't know how long Zopo is going to decide to support the ZP980 for. We just don't know. So it depends what you want. If you want a good phone that's relatively cheap and you can't get the Nexus 4 in your country, I would 100% recommend this. Like I said, there's nothing glaringly wrong with it. It's just a really, really good phone. I mean, like I said, the screen is among the best I've ever seen. The performance is up there. It's comparable. It's like the quad-core phones of last year. It's like the first generation quad-cores, so like the Exynos 4 Quad and the International Galaxy S3. Like I'd say like the Tegra 3, but that's just an insult. So, yeah, guys, this is it. This is Dom from www.mobile-dom.co.uk. You can get me on Twitter, which is twitter.com/mobile_dom. You can circle me on Google+, which is gpass.to/Domenico Lamberti. And that's about it. Toodle pip.